Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll start our practice coming into a comfortable seated position of your choice. If you're coming into a chair, maybe your back is up against the back of the chair. If you're coming down onto the ground, go ahead and maybe take a crisscross applesauce, or maybe send the legs out long. You could always bring a pillow or a blanket or a block under the hips. Make sure your spine is lengthened no matter where you're at, and that you're allowing your shoulders to start to relax down the spine as your hands rest gently. And I invite you to close your eyes or to simply soften your gaze, letting your eyelids grow heavy and truly arriving here in this moment, in this time. We start to notice our breath, not changing it in any way, but simply noticing it where it is at this moment. And then we'll start to scan through the body, noticing any sensations, these tweaks or twinges, any aches or pains. We don't want to offer these items any judgment or worry, but instead see if you can simply breathe with them, offering them a little bit of space as you acknowledge them. We'll notice the parts of our body that are touching the surfaces we're resting on. Letting our weight grow even heavier as we melt into the surfaces that are supporting us today. Allow yourself to feel present in this moment as you gently rest here. We'll begin to focus on the breath itself. And as we do, we'll start to equal out our inhale and our exhale, starting to match the length. Maybe even counting to a count of 4 or a count of 6, or counting till your inhale ends and then matching that count on the exhale. And we'll get into a nice rhythm here with this equal breath. Breathing in either through the nose or the mouth, whichever feels more comfortable in this moment. And exhaling through the nose or the mouth as well. Really allowing the two sides of the breath to find an equal rhythm. Now with our next inhale, I want you to pause at the top, holding the air in for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1, before you exhale for that equal exhale out. And then we'll continue that cycle, inhaling and exhaling to whatever equal length feels good in your lungs today. And then holding at the top for a count of 4, for your count of 4, before exhaling back down. Continue with that breath for a few rounds. Maybe allowing your weight to grow even heavier into the surfaces beneath you as you relax here in this moment even more. Now with that next pause, see if you can add one count and extend it to a count of 5. Creating just a little bit more space in that breath, in that pause. And continue that cycle for just a few rounds. And as we continue this equal breath, extended pause, maybe after a couple of rounds at 5, you extend to 6, etc. Today we're going to talk about being authentic. When we put ourselves fully out into the world as we really are, we get to live in our truths. I've struggled with this for many years, as I was afraid of sharing parts of myself, fearing rejection. Finding a mindfulness practice and meditation has allowed me to get real with myself, though, and honor how I actually feel in each moment, instead of striving to feel how I thought I was supposed to feel. When we show up in the world authentically, people are moved, whether they admit it or not. So give the world the gift of being your true, authentic self. As you breathe here, may you honor how you actually feel today. May you no longer hide parts of yourself for fear of being unlikable. And may you show up authentically on your mat and beyond. We'll take one last cycle of that equal breath with pause extended. Maybe extending it to the longest hold so far. Or exhaling out. And then finding your natural breath once more. We'll take a moment to offer ourselves just a bit of gratitude. We took time out of our busy day to show up for ourselves. And then as you're ready, let's begin to wiggle fingers and toes. We'll flutter the eyes open. And we'll start to add some gentle movement into our practice. We're taking floor practices. We're going to come on over into a child's pose. Feel free to add a pillow if you want, or maybe a blanket under your knees. You're welcome to make this as comfy of a child's pose as you want. The knees can be together or wide. And send those arms out long as you begin to descend the heart towards the floor. The forehead could rest on the floor. It could dangle, or maybe you bring a pillow or block under the torso or forehead, allowing you to make contact with those surfaces and come into a resting place. If you're taking this from the chair, we're going to open our knees just a little bit wider than hip distance, and then allowing the hands to rest on the knees, hinging forward. And you can keep those hands on the knees or reach them down towards the toes, and curl chin into your chest here. Also, Finding that moment of release as we fold into our breath here. Let each breath fill your lungs completely, and each exhale melting into the surfaces supporting you just a little bit more. Beautiful. With our next inhale, I want us to take a slow roll, coming all the way back up to a straight spine, sitting on your heels if you're on the floor, seated in the chair if you're sitting in the chair, and then go ahead and bring your knees kind of towards each other. They don't have to be together completely, but we're going to start to find a little bit of a fluid movement through our spine. So we'll come into almost a tabletop position, and it doesn't have to be a strict tabletop position on the mat. From here, we're going to move between a cow, dropping our belly, lifting our gaze, rolling our shoulders back, and then sink it back into a child's like pose, rounding through the spine, curling chin to chest, and then move through your angry cat into your cow. Start to make this a circular motion, moving from one effortlessly transitioning into the other. Then the chair, you're going to come back up to that straight spine. Go ahead and keep those knees separate and then hinge into your forward fold, coming down into that seated child's pose. Keep your hands on your knees this time so that you can start to find that flow. And as you straighten the spine, arch it, your cow pose, and then sink it through your angry cat back into child's. We'll take this for just a couple more rounds as you really allow yourself to feel the movement through your spine. And feel free to add any additional movements that your body might be calling to truly make this yours. Maybe even go backwards if you were going in one direction. Maybe switch it up just a little bit. Or anything else that feels good. Great job. All right, with our next exhale, we'll come through our child's pose option. On the floor, you can keep those knees together or take them back out wider if you'd like. And if you're seated in the chair, you can keep your hands on your knees, or maybe you bring your hands down to a prop like a block on the floor. From here, we're going to start to walk our hands over to the right side of our space, or if you're seated in the chair, you can bring it to your right leg. We're going to take this into a child's side bend. And you can always take that left hand and maybe tiptoe the fingertips a little bit further forward, or walk and put the left hand on top of the right hand, adding just a little extra oomph to the stretch if you'd like. Sinking the forehead back down towards the ground. Find your breath. Exhale through center over to the left side of your space. This time, right hand on top, or walking a little bit further forward. Feel your breath there. Exhale to come through center child's pose. Seated on the floor, you're going to look down towards your hands and then pull your heart forward so that you can come down onto your belly, and then bring your forehead down to the mat and slide your shoulders, hands under your shoulders, squeezing elbows in by your sides and tucking the top of the feet to the mat. We're seated in the chair. We're going to go ahead and walk those knees back together just a little bit. So come up to our straight spine. You can either bring your hands to your knees, or maybe bring a pillow to on top of your knees, and we're going to press into that. Or you can bring your back up against the seat and you do your back bends over the back of the seat. We're going to play with some cobras from whatever variation we're taking. Seated variation or ground variation. With our next inhale, Press into your hands wherever they're located and start to peel your forehead up towards the ceiling a little bit, lifting up your shoulders, arching the spine. Take it into a baby cobra here. If you're on the ground, you could lift your hands and still hold the same pose without any struggle. Great job. Exhale, lower hands and straighten spine. Release. Our next inhale presses into the hands. Maybe we take it up just a little bit deeper, a little higher. Maybe gaze pulls forward or up. Exhale to release. One more. Inhale it up just a little bit deeper this time. Exhale to release. Go ahead and take 3 rolling cobras on your own. If you're on the floor, you can keep your hands in closer, even take them out wider if you'd like to add a little bit more fluidity through the spine. And as you inhale, find your back bend. And as you exhale, unwind the spine. Our last cobra. Exhale to release the spine to straight. Great job. Now next we're going to wake up our core just a little bit. So if you're seated in the chair, we're going to bring our hips forward and our shoulders back. As always, if you want more support, add a pillow behind you, but it's not necessary here. Go ahead and you'll take these one side at a time, inhaling, starting to curl in that right knee towards your chest. And that's where you're going to start. And take that left to right. Just a couple of times, noticing how that feels. If you're on the floor, we're going to come on over onto our hips. We're going to plant our heels on the ground. We're going to lengthen through our spine, holding the back of our legs or sending our hands out long. You can keep your heels on the ground, or you can start to lift them up. We're going to move from this high position of a high plank into a low plank. Now you're always welcome to keep those heels on the ground and then lift them up. Or keep them hovering if that feels more your pace. And again, you're on the chair, you're taking it one at a time, letting your core, your lower abdominals lead this movement. Now, if you want to go just a little bit deeper, you can hold the chair and lift one or both feet up without the use of using your hands. Hold the legs. All right, one more breath in your high cobra to low cobra. And then with our next exhale, curl into a ball, hugging your torso towards your knees or your knees towards your torso. Feel free to take any rocks left to right. Great job. All righty. If we're seated on the floor, we're going to come into a tabletop pose, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And if we're on our chair, we're going to actually take this from a higher position because we're going to come into a side plank. So make sure your chair is firmly planted and that you're still creating that straight line through the arms and then through the legs. Alrighty, wherever we are at, we're going to bring the right hand to the side of our space and then begin. Oh, actually, let's take that back to the center, back out to the side. I'm sorry. We're starting off in our tabletop pose and we're going to take a spinal balance. So we're going to lift our right arm and lift our left leg. The spinal balance. Really engage through your core as you send one arm long, one leg back in opposite directions. Being mindful not to dump into either side of the body. Doing great. All right, our next exhale brings both hands to the mat. We're going to take that grounded leg. We're going to turn it so the foot is pointing behind us. We're coming into side plank now, moving the same arm as the grounded leg into the center of our space. And then just like before, we're stacking wrist and shoulders in a straight line. And you can send that top leg out long. Keep it on the ground or lift it up for a little more engagement. Standing might look a little bit more like this, or toes down. Wherever you're at though, hands and wrist and shoulders are in that straight line. Your core is engaged. You're doing a great job. Now let's take that top arm and rainbow arc it overhead, really pulling our rib cage out to the side as we open up here. Great job. Exhale to bring it back into side plank. And then we're going to take it into a quad stretch. If you're standing, you can come into a more straight position and start to kick your heel up towards your hip, maybe capturing it with your hand or your strap if you're using a strap. And if you're on the mat, you're going to take that same movement. You're going to kick your heel towards your hip, maybe grab it with your strap or grab your pant leg or any portion of your leg or foot. And start to draw your heel towards your hip. Great job. You can also have a strap no matter where you're at. All right, one last breath here. Inhale to open up to side plank. Go ahead and ground that top leg, whether you lifted it or not. Exhale, tabletop variation of your own choice. Take any movement, maybe roll through the wrist or anything you might need. And then as you're ready, we'll start to take spinal balance, opposite side. Send it out long. Stretch that leg out, stretch that arm out. You can always keep it down for support or lift it up for more of a challenge. Being sure not to dip or open your hip. Beautiful job. One last breath here. Our next exhale drops both hands to the mat. We're going to turn the grounded foot or leg towards the side, opening us up out into that side plank. Top leg extended or not. On the ground or lifted. And then when you're ready, rainbow arc it over. Feel that deep side bend along the entire side of your body. Your gaze can be down, up, or out. Make sure you feel supported, whichever choice you make. Inhale, bring it back through side plank. And then if you're feeling stable, go ahead and bring a bend into that top leg, bringing the heel back towards the hip, capturing it, taking the quad stretch. Great job. Extend it out long. Exhale, tabletop variation of your choice. And then let's move into a downward dog of your choice. So if you're on the mat, maybe lifting the knees, hips towards the heels, or hips towards the ceiling. And if you're taking it from your chair, you can be high or low, or even using a wall, but you're creating that same shape. Pressing into the hands as you let the head come in between the arms, the hips up high, a nice generous bend in your knees. And we'll take a few moments here in this downward dog to simply breathe, to maybe start to pedal the legs and shift the weight a little left to right, finding any movement or stillness that your body would like, maybe even moving through the head, neck, or finding a little bit of a wave with your breath, letting your breath move through your spine. We'll take one more breath in our downward dog of choice. And then begin to look back towards your toes and start to walk your hands towards your feet, or walk your feet towards your hands, depending on your shape your body is making, coming into your first standing forward fold. Hands can rest on a prop, your legs or the floor, or maybe you grab opposite elbows, taking a rag doll as you sway from side to side. You grabbed opposite elbows, go ahead and release hands to their previous location. And as we press into them, we're gonna lift up halfway, figure 7, gaze stays down. Core's just a little bit engaged here. Exhale, hinge into your forward fold, and drop the hips towards the heels. Start to take a slow roll as we come all the way up to standing. The next inhale, circle arms up to the sky, tall mountain. And then either keeping one hand lifted and one hand on a support, we're going to start to explore lifting one heel and then the other. As always, you're welcome to explore lifting both heels at the same time if that feels like part of your practice as well. We'll take just a few breaths here, feeling the creaks and the cracks in the feet. Exhale, bring those heels down. We'll go ahead and cross the right leg behind the left leg. The feet can be tight together or there can be some space. You can even just bring one leg behind the other if that feels better for your body. And with our next exhale, we're going to drop our left hand to our left hip or to our prop for support and take it into a side bend towards the left. Great job. Inhale through center. We're going to take into a wide twist at the hips, turning towards the right, taking one arm in front and one arm behind. Twisty all over. Inhale through center. And our next exhale hinges at the hips into a forward fold. Over those crisscross legs. Notice how that feels through the body. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, uncross the legs, finding mountain pose. Hinge into your forward fold. Inhale, tall mountain. Beautiful job. Let's take the left foot behind the right, crisscross. Right hand comes to right hip or to the prop as we lean to the right. Inhale through center. Exhale, wide arm twist to the left. Inhale through center. Exhale, hinge into that forward fold over those front legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Uncross the legs. Take a moment here. Exhale, hinge into your forward fold. Our next inhale, we're going to start to come up halfway. And as we do, we're going to start to sink our hips into a chair pose. Bending at the knees, sinking into the hips. The hands can come to a prayer. They can reach out long in front of you, or they can rest on a prop for support. Beautiful job. All right, inhale, rise up to tall mountain. And then with our next exhale, let's circle the hands down by the hips, interlacing fingers, rolling those shoulders open, releasing the heart forward, maybe the chin lifts. You can keep those hands by the hips, or maybe start to lift them away. Now, as always, maybe you're not grabbing opposite hands, maybe you're grabbing opposite wrist or elbows, maybe you just have your shirt or that strap in between your hands, but it's still the same movement. Same heart opener, maybe the same lift of the chin. Great job. From here, exhale, start to bend into the knees, find that chair pose once more. Take one more breath here. And then release your arms into airplane arms, letting the palms come flat, and then they come out by the sides of the hips. Great job. I'm going to come into a little bit of a balance challenge here. So if you want, you can always bring a hand or two to a prop. Begin the same way as we did with the toe balance at the beginning of class, lifting one heel at a time, or maybe lifting both heels. Finding a spot on the floor that's not moving, or again, maybe touching a spot nearby for just a little added support here and there. And if you can't, both heels is too much, feel free to just pedal between, lifting one heel at a time. You're doing great. One last breath here. Heels down, hinge into your forward fold to release. Inhale, tall mountain. Exhale, bring it down through a prayer into your mountain. All right, go ahead and feel free to shake and wiggle, make any movement you want. I'm gonna take that right leg, we're gonna step it back for a warrior two. We're gonna start to bend through the front knee. And then as you're ready, send the arms out long and wide to a T. Beautiful job. Set up for your foundation. Squeeze those thigh muscles in. Feel like your core is pulling back towards your spine and that you're squeezing a grate between your shoulder blades. Great job. Our next inhale, we're going to straighten through that front leg. Turn the front toes to the side. 5-pointed star. Heels out, toes in. No. Toes out, heels in. Exhale, bring those hands down to your hips. And then start to find a generous bend in the hips and knees. You can hinge a little left to right. Feel free to bounce a little, or even play with those heel lifts here. As you settle in, take a few breaths, eventually finding some stillness. Now, anytime we're in this horse stance, feel free to come out into your 5-pointed star and sink it back in as your legs allow. Inhale, 5-pointed star. Exhale, cactus the arms. This time we're in horse stance with goddess arms, squeezing that grape behind the shoulder blades. Beautiful job. Inhale, 5-pointed star. Exhale, take the heels in line with the toes. And then as we hinge, we forward fold. Hands can come to the floor, to your prop, or to your legs. As you take your forehead all the way down, you're welcome to have as much of a bend in the knees as feels good today. Let's go ahead and take our hands, press them into whatever they're in as we lift up halfway, and then walk the hands over towards the right leg. They can rest on the leg or on your prop or anywhere along that leg or hip. Exhale through center. Take it over towards the left. Great job. Inhale through center. Exhale to release into your forward fold. Take it just a little bit deeper. Bend the knees, sink the hips. Inhale, roll it up, 5-pointed star. Begin to bring those front toes towards the front of your mat, warrior two. And then begin to lift that back heel and swing the back hip, low, high lunge. Great job. Take just one breath here. And then with our next inhale, straighten the legs and step it up, taking one or many steps. All right, let's take side two. Inhale, opposite leg, left leg steps back, warrior two. Build your foundation. You know where we're going. You've been here before. You're doing a great job. Feel your breath. Take one more breath, maybe sink it a little bit deeper into that front knee. Inhale, 5-pointed star towards the side. Exhale, heels in, toes out. Horse and goddess, bending the knees, sinking into the legs. All right, this time go ahead and drop the hands to the top of the thighs. We'll drop one shoulder as we twist the spine and bring it out. Come through center, take it left to right at your own pace. Doing great. One more breath on each side. Inhale through center. 5-pointed star to release. Bring heels in line with toes. Hinge into your forward fold. Beautiful job here. We're going to pause for just a moment. See if you can release something and soften something just a little bit more. Beautiful job. Our next inhale presses into our hands wherever they're located. We're going to bring our right hand directly under our face. And then bending that right knee, we're going to start to let the left hand travel up to the sky. Twisting through our wide-legged forward fold. Exhale to release left hand to the center of your space, bending left knee as you twist the right hand up. Exhale to release. Go into your forward fold to the deepest you have so far today. Bend the knees, sink the hips, roll it up, 5-pointed star. Exhale, warrior 2 to the front of your mat, coming back into that second side. Inhale, high lunge, lift that back heel. Great job. Step it in. Feel free to take any movement you might want to. All right, for our next breath, we can either do this up high if we're using the chair, or maybe come down a little bit lower if we're using props. So I'll cue through the chair option first, and then we'll get into it on the floor if you're taking floor poses. We're going to come into lizard lunge. So we're going to step our right foot over to the right side of our mat or outside of our chair. Begin to let that right knee bend with a little bit of an angle. We're standing, we're stepping that left foot back, staying up high on the knee, and keeping a prop either high or maybe even a little bit lower under the hands. We're doing this from the floor. You can keep that back knee lifted for more engagement, or bring it down to the mat, maybe even putting a blanket underneath for a little bit less engagement. You can bring a prop under your hands, or as you sink your hips forward, maybe you can come down onto your elbows or onto your torso. You can stay high on that foot or start to roll out, letting the knee open up. This is our own variation of lizard lunge, no matter where we're at. Keep the spine straight. Feel your breath. All right, if you came down onto elbows, go ahead and bring hands back under shoulders. If you let yourself roll onto the outer edge of your foot, go ahead and bring the sole of the foot back down to the floor. We're going to go ahead and keep our opposite hand from that front foot on the mat. And then as we inhale, let's twist this other hand towards the ceiling. So the same hand as that front leg is going to twist towards the ceiling. You can even open it behind you if that feels good. Great job. Now, if you are on the mat and your knee is not on the ground, go ahead and bring it down to the ground. And then maybe start to point your toe up towards the ceiling, and we'll circle that back hand down towards that foot. You can capture it if it's available. You can point at it. If not, you can always grab that strap and wrap it around as well. And if we're taking this from a standing position, we're not lifting that foot. We're simply pointing our hand back towards that leg, feeling that deep twist in our revolved position. All right, we're going to take one more breath. Wherever we're at, exhale to release both hands under the shoulders, and then find your way back into tabletop if you're on the ground, or back into mountain if you're standing. And let's take that on side two. So left foot comes out to the left side, toes pointing out to the side. Beginning to step that right foot back. That's if you're standing. If you're coming in from a tabletop, we'll bring the left foot forward, let the toes fall out to the side. Start to send the opposite leg back. Again, feel free to tuck those toes and lift it if you want just a little bit more engagement. Let the knee rest for a little bit more support. And then just like that other side, take a few moments to spend deciding how you can make this feel better, and then simply choosing to do that. So maybe it wants the same modifications you took on the other side, or maybe you want just a few other options here. It's really up to you as you stretch this side of your body. Keep the back of your neck long. Maybe you settle back into that equal, extended breath. Great job. We'll take one last breath in our lizard lunge of choice. All right, if the back knee is lifted off the ground and you're on the mat, go ahead and bring it down to the ground and the sole of the foot to the floor. We're going to take that twist. So opposite hand stays planted, and then lifting the same hand as the front knee, we fling it up towards the sky, or maybe even back behind us as we open up and twist open. Great job. Now, if you are on the mat and the knee is grounded, go ahead and start to lift the toes, pointing the fingers back towards the foot, no matter where you're at. Maybe capturing the foot if it's available. Great job. Exhale to slowly unwind. Great job. All righty. From here, we're going to find our way into a standing position. If you're taking chair poses, that standing position is going to be in front of your chair. No matter where you're at, your feet are going to be about hip distance or maybe a little bit wider, your toes out, your heels in. We're going to inhale, we're going to start to lift the arms up and overhead. And with an exhale, we're going to start to bend into the knees and sink into the hips as we come into a squat, either hovering just above your chair or going maybe as deep as feels good for you today. Maybe even coming into bringing a block under your hips or sitting down on your chair. We're going to bring our right hand or elbow to our knee, or maybe down towards the floor or towards the prop. Lift the left hand up, take it into a side bend twist. Exhale through the center. Left hand down, right hand up. Beautiful job. Bring it back through center. All right, we're going to take a puppy, a dolphin, or a variation of your choice. If you're taking this from a chair, we have a couple of options. If you want to stay seated, maybe bring your chair close to a wall and bring your hands into that diamond shape with elbows out wide, and start to bring your forehead towards the wall. Your knees can be out a little wide if that feels good for your body. Now, if we're taking this from a floor pose, you're going to make the same diamond shape, or you can keep those hands parallel. You can keep the knees grounded and start to walk the hips back, letting the forehead and heart sink towards the floor. For just a little bit more engagement, if you want, you can instead come into a dolphin, which would involve lifting the knees and bringing the hips up towards the sky. In a downward dog, lower body. These each offer different variations of stretches through our shoulders and our spine. So feel free to settle into whichever one is calling you today, taking just a few more breaths here. Great job. One last breath there. As we inhale, roll up to a straight spine. We're on the floor. We're going to come up, bringing our hips up against a surface. It could be a wall, it could be a bed, it could be a piece of furniture in our space. It's really up to you in the space you have. But our goal here is to get our feet up a little higher than our head, higher than our heart, and a legs up the wall variation. And the legs can go wide here as we rest here. You can even bring a bend into the knees and the soles of the feet flat if that feels better for you. Now, if you're taking these from our chair poses, as always, you're welcome to find your own variations, maybe on a couch or using the wall as well. Another great option is, instead of having the legs up, have the legs down, take them into that wide-legged position, and then hinge your body into a forward fold, curling chin into your chest. So it has a similar effect, but gravity is bringing you down versus gravity bringing the legs down. We'll take just a few breaths here. And always add any props like blankets or pillows that you might be calling to you at this moment. You can flex and point the toes if that feels good. All right, I'm gonna take one last breath here. Go ahead and bring those legs towards each other. And then we're going to take it into a twist. So if you're on the wall, bring the knees into a bend, the soles of the feet to the floor, to the wall, and then walk them over towards the right till they make it to the ground. Try to keep your shoulders flat and maybe send the arms to a cactus or a T. You're taking this from a chair position. You're taking it from a wall. You're welcome. Stay on the wall and simply take the same option, walking the feet down to the right side and keeping the torso twisted. If you're not using the wall at all, if you have the legs wide in the middle of your space, you can come into any twist variation that you would normally take. We'll take just one or two more breaths here. Checking in with your heartbeat. So going a little fast right now or a little slow or somewhere in between. How's your breath? You're struggling for your breath. Is it that nice equal pause extended option? Go ahead and take our twist to the other side. They're on the wall, walking your feet along the wall to the other side. Knowing you can add any props here, no matter where you're at. Take just a few more rounds of breath as we settle into this twist on this side. At any point, you could come out and maybe take a few windshield wipers or any other movement or stretch your body might be calling. But as we're ready, we'll start to move into our final resting pose. And stay seated in your chair or move to a more comfortable space. You could take that legs up the wall variation if you liked that as well, or any other option from corpse to constructive rest. You can add any pillows, any blocks, any comforts, so that you can start to relax on command. Maybe you settle in and close your eyes, or maybe you simply soften your gaze and allow your eyelids to grow heavier. As you settle in, we'll feel our breath as we begin to melt into the surfaces beneath us. Try not to change your breath. No equal breath, no pauses, just gentle, easy, unrestricted, authentic breath. Begin to notice your shoulders. They feel tense. And if so, breathe a few breaths directly in their direction, willing those muscles to release the tension. Then go through the body, checking in different muscle groups, seeing if any of them need a little extra breath, a little extra attention. As you unwind the muscles one by one. Feel every ounce of your body is melted like butter into toast to the surfaces beneath you. Today we were talking about authenticity. Authenticity can be scary, but it is worth it. There's so much pressure to conform and to fit molds, other people's molds. We can be really hard on ourselves. Sometimes even hard on ourselves for simply not knowing all the answers. We don't always trust our intuition when we should. We doubt ourselves, trying to fit that mold. But does that mold really fit anybody? Today we'll take a step back and we'll tell ourselves that while we can always learn from others' choices, decisions, and experiences, that we are building our own paths. To be our best self, we have to show up as our true self. We have to do it our own way, choosing the path of authenticity. In a lot of ways, this can be scarier than being like everyone else, or even someone else. But being authentic takes courage. It means putting on your realest self every single day and putting it out there for the world to see. It means taking a path that might look different from others, but having faith that it's meant just for you. Authenticity is something that we all have the power to choose every single day. And today, our guided meditation will help us explore what authenticity looks and feels like for us. Authenticity means aligning our actions with our values. You can think of it as dancing with your true self. To start, we'll reflect on some of the values that we hold closest to us. To see what comes up, what you hold close. Maybe it's creativity or compassion. Maybe it's kindness or honesty. Maybe it's connection or independence. But as you breathe, list a few of the values that you hold close. And as you see what comes up, notice what happens in your bodies. Whether you realize it or not, you've already shown that you have the courage to live those values. It can happen in small or big ways. And I want you to notice that courage within yourself. So now I want you to think of one recent moment or experience where you brought one of those values to life. Maybe creativity came to life when you created an exotic new dish for your family to eat. Or compassion when you showed up for someone in need. Or maybe it was honesty when you initiated a tough conversation. Or even connection when you made the effort to reach out to someone far away. Take the next few breaths and go through your core values and see a few examples of when you brought them to life. Again, they don't have to be big moments. Authenticity happens in the small stuff too. I'll give you just a few moments. Beautiful job. Now, lastly, I want you to focus on one of those values, just one. And now think about some ways that you can lead with that value over the week ahead. What big or small steps can you take to authentically live that value? I'll give you just a final moment to reflect. Amazing work today. Authenticity takes courage, but trust that you have it within you. You've shown it in the past, and you can call on it every day. As we end class, maybe take a moment to place your hands on your heart space. Connect with the space where your most true self lives, where your most authentic self resides. And maybe choosing to repeat after me or choosing authentically not to. Breathing in deeply. I choose authenticity. I choose authenticity. We'll take a final, deepest breath of our day so far. Your truest self is a gift that you can give to the world. Let it shine today. And then as you're ready, begin to wiggle fingers and toes and flutter your eyes open in your own time and in your own way. Start to make it to an upright position facing me. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a great week ahead of you. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time.